Archaeologists annually uncover hundreds of artifacts that completely contradict established historical theories. Ancient manuscripts with mysterious symbols, found thousands of kilometers from their presumed place of origin, have baffled historians for decades. Particularly intriguing are the findings of fossilized remains and metallic tools in geological layers dated over 100 million years old, when, according to official accounts, humanity did not yet exist. Scientists often suppress such discoveries that do not fit within academic paradigms. Complex mechanical devices found in layers dated to the 3rd millennium BCE demonstrate a level of technology that, by historical logic, was impossible. Statues and petroglyphs depict beings resembling extraterrestrials with disproportionately large heads and eyes. The legend of Atlantis dates back to the ancient Greek philosopher Plato, who described this mythical land in his dialogues Timaeus and Critias, written around 3,000 years ago, as a utopian society with outstanding culture and technology. Plato claimed that Atlantis was located beyond the Pillars of Hercules, present-day Gibraltar, and was swallowed by the sea in a catastrophic event, which some researchers believe could be a metaphor for historical events such as the eruption of the San. Over the centuries, numerous theories have emerged about the location of Atlantis, including those suggesting it was situated in the Caribbean Sea, off the coast of Antarctica, or even in the Bermuda Triangle area. Some researchers, like the Swedish geologist and archaeologist Dagobert van Gisel, have asserted that Atlantis could have been a real country that existed during the Bronze Age, pointing to archaeological finds such as underwater structures off the coast of. The cultural influence of Atlantis on art and literature is immense. It has inspired authors like Jules Verne and Arthur C. Clarke, and its image has become a symbol of an utopian ideal and a lost paradise. Scientific research into Atlantis continues today, with many historians and archaeologists attempting to unravel the mysteries of this mythical country using modern technologies such as underwater archaeology and ground-penetrating radar to search for discoveries such as mysterious structures on the seabed off the coast of the Bahamas continue to fuel interest in the topic, and each new finding adds a drop to the ocean of debate about the reality of Atlantis. Among the numerous theories about the location of Atlantis, one of the most popular posits that this mythical continent was situated in the Mediterranean Sea. Researchers such as Professor Douglas Kenny of the University of Tuscany have proposed the hypothesis that Atlantis might have been located near the island of Santorini, which was devastated by a catastrophic volcanic eruption around 1600 BCE. This event caused immense destruction and could have been the basis for myths about a lost civilization. However, not all researchers agree with this theory. Some argue that Atlantis should be located in the Atlantic Ocean, as proposed by Plato in his dialogues Timaeus and Critias. According to his description, Atlantis was situated beyond the Pillars of Hercules, which are now understood as the modern-day Strait of Gibraltar. Scientists such as Dr. John Hawkins have noted that extensive underwater structures found in this area could be remnants of an ancient civilization submerged due to rising sea levels. Additionally, there are alternative theories linking Atlantis to the North African coast. These alleged ruins, such as underwater pyramids, were found at depths exceeding 300 meters and continue to raise many questions. In this context, it is also worth mentioning that such discoveries continue to attract the interest of archaeologists and historians, as each new artifact can provide additional information about the possible civilization. Given the ongoing interest in Atlantis, it is worth considering the presumed technologies and achievements of this enigmatic civilization. According to various sources, including Plato, the Atlanteans possessed knowledge that far exceeded their time. For instance, there were suggestions of flying machines capable of long-distance travel. Some research indicates that these devices could operate on anti-magnetic technologies, allowing aircraft to take off and land vertically, similar to modern helicopters. For example, researcher Dr. Michael Graves in his book Secrets of Atlantis claims that such aircraft could reach heights of up to 30 kilometers. Additionally, on Atlantean maps found in ancient texts, one can see depictions of strange vehicles resembling modern submarines. These devices, according to researchers, could be capable of deep-sea diving and navigating oceanic spaces. No less intriguing are the mentions of advanced weaponry. Historian Dr. Richard Smith asserts that the Atlanteans could use energy weapons that produced powerful laser beams capable of destroying stone walls and even entire buildings. Such technology could be compared to modern laser weapon concepts currently under development. It is also important to note that the Atlanteans, according to ancient texts, possessed technologies for weather manipulation. For example, Plato's works mention that they could induce rain or even hurricanes using devices based on sound waves and electromagnetic fields. This opens up fascinating prospects for studying ancient knowledge of nature. Moreover, Atlanteans, according to archaeologists, had significant achievements in medicine. Finds of tools resembling modern surgical instruments indicate a high level of medical practices. In the 20th century, archaeologists discovered on underwater excavations near the Bahamas medical instruments, including scalpels and clamps, dating back approximately 2,000 years. These facts suggest that the Atlanteans had deep knowledge of human anatomy and surgical techniques. There is also the belief that they developed methods of long-distance communication, possibly involving sound signals or even early radio elements. If such technologies existed, they raise many questions about the possibilities of communication between the Atlanteans and other civilizations. Considering all these data, it becomes clear that Atlantis could have possessed technologies that seem impossible for their time. However, it is important to remember that evidence of these achievements remains largely hypothetical. Archaeologists continue to explore mysterious places, such as the underwater remains near the island of Puerto Rico, where strange geometric forms were found that could be part of Atlantean architecture. For instance, this eruption caused a tsunami that flooded coastal settlements and destroyed agriculture, resulting in a catastrophic impact on the inhabitants. Human activity has also significantly influenced the disappearance of civilizations. The ancient Maya, for example, faced prolonged droughts due to excessive deforestation and inefficient agriculture, leading to the decline of their cities by the 19th century CE. This example illustrates how the combination of ecology and human intervention can be fatal for society. Furthermore, similar examples can be found in other regions. For instance, the Inca civilization, despite its achievements in agriculture and architecture, was partially destroyed by the Spanish conquest in the 16th century and also subjected to the erasure of traces by time and climatic changes. The research shows that over the millennia, from the ancient Sumerians to the Aztecs, many societies left few traces, and often the only evidence of their existence are ruins and artifacts. These examples highlight how easily culture can be lost due to natural disasters, human activity, and time. In this context, it is important to note that even if the physical traces of a civilization may disappear, their influence remains in the historical memory and culture of future generations. Discoveries such as pottery, architectural elements, and written sources continue to reveal new aspects of history, although they are merely echoes of once thriving societies. The legend of Atlantis, first mentioned by Plato in his dialogues Timaeus and Critias around 391 BC, has had a profound impact on science and culture. This mythical civilization, according to Plato, was located beyond the Pillars of Hercules and was destroyed by a catastrophe, giving rise to numerous speculations about its existence. Over the centuries, researchers have sought evidence of Atlantis, leading to the development of various theories, from its location on the island of Santorini to hypotheses that it could have been in the territory of Antarctica. One of the first to seriously take up the search for Atlantis was the philosopher and geographer Francis Bacon in the 17th century, who described it as an ideal society. In the 19th century, interest in Atlantis grew when the Swiss writer Ignatius Donker published his work Atlantis, in which he claimed that this civilization possessed advanced technologies and astronomical knowledge, which prompted the study of ancient cultures. In the early 20th century, researchers such as Emilio Betancourt and his work on ancient maps, which he believed could contain references to the lost continent, continued the investigations. Atlantis has inspired not only scientists but also artists, writers, and screenwriters. For example, Arthur Conan Doyle's novel *The Lost World*, published in 1912, reflected utopian motifs connected to the Atlantis myth. In the 20th century, the image of Atlantis became part of popular culture, with films such as Atlantis: The Lost Empire by Disney in 2001, which attracted the attention of youth to the idea of a lost civilization. Scientific research has also not left the topic of Atlantis without attention, and some anthropologists, such as K.C. Lewis, archaeological research has also revealed the remains of complex societies in the Mediterranean, such as Troy and Mycenae, which could have served as prototypes for Plato's descriptions. A vast number of books, articles, and documentary films are dedicated to this theme, and even today, scientists continue to debate the reality of Atlantis. As of 2020, even modern technologies such as satellite imagery and sociological research do not allow for a definitive confirmation or refutation of the existence of this civilization. At the scientific research related to Atlantis has not only enriched our knowledge of ancient civilizations, but also demonstrated how a myth can influence scientific research and public consciousness. For example, in 2006, a group of scientists announced the discovery of underwater structures off the coast of Cuba, which some researchers hastily named the remains of Atlantis, reigniting interest in the myth. There are numerous theories about the natural disasters that could have led to the disappearance of Atlantis, as described by Plato in his dialogues Timaeus and Critias. One of the most widespread theories concerns powerful earthquakes and tsunamis that could have destroyed the island. In the 19th century, Swedish geologist Alfred Wegener proposed a hypothesis that Atlantis could have been located in the area of the present-day Azores Islands, where tectonic plates are constantly shifting, causing underwater earthquakes. Seismic research data show that strong underground tremors reaching magnitudes of 6 and above have been recorded in this region. Additionally, in the 12th century BC, several devastating earthquakes occurred on the eastern coast of the Mediterranean Sea, which could have damaged coastal cities and caused tsunamis that could have flooded low-lying areas. There is also a theory about climate changes that could have led to the disappearance of Atlantis. During the period between the 8th and 5th centuries BC, when, according to Plato, Atlantis was flourishing, significant climate changes occurred, including cooling and sea level rise. These ecological conditions could have made the island uninhabitable. Furthermore, in recent decades, scientists have conducted research showing how climate change could have affected civilizations living in coastal zones. For example, a study conducted in 2005 by a group of scientists from the University of California, Berkeley, showed that as a result of sea level rise at the end of the last ice age, around 10,000 years ago, many coastal settlements could have been flooded. Despite numerous searches conducted in various parts of the world since the beginning of the 20th century, concrete evidence of the existence of Atlantis has not been found. Archaeologists and researchers such as Dr. Jeffrey Pull, who in 2007 studied underwater structures in the Caribbean Sea, have not found any artifacts confirming the existence of this mythical civilization. Searches have been conducted in places where, according to ancient texts, the remains of Atlantis could be found, in the area of the Hercules Pillars off the coast of Libya, and even in Antarctica, but no expedition has led to concrete findings. As a result, all these studies have only raised additional questions and hypotheses, but have not provided definitive answers about what happened to Atlantis. In 2018, a group of scientists from the University of Sussex proposed an alternative theory, suggesting that the myth of Atlantis could have been based on real events related to the flooding of islands in the Aegean Sea, such as Thera, which is also supported by archaeological findings. Inspired by his account, researchers have been tirelessly seeking traces of Atlantis, connecting ancient myths with archaeological discoveries. For instance, in the late 19th century, American researcher Graham Hancock proposed that Atlantis could have been located in the region of the Maltese archipelago, based on his observations of underwater structures. In the early days, Castro found on the bottom of the Mediterranean Sea remnants of stone structures that also sparked debates about a possible connection to Atlantis. He believed these could be the remains of a submerged city that once flourished. In 2003, Italian oceanographer Gianluca Ricci conducted an expedition in the area of underwater rocks near the Aegean Sea and recorded unusual forms that resemble artificial structures. His findings attracted the attention of many scientists, but their connection to the mythical Atlantis remains controversial. There is also a hypothesis that Atlantis could have been the island of Santorini, which was destroyed by one of the most powerful volcanic eruptions in history. This eruption, which occurred around 1600 years BC, could have caused a tsunami that destroyed ancient civilizations along the coast of the Aegean Sea. Scientific research continues, and each new discovery adds new chapters to this myth, fueling interest in the search for Atlantis. In 2000, a group of researchers led by Professor Peter Costas from the University of London discovered traces of an ancient road covered in seaweed on the ocean floor near the island of Crete. This discovery sparked discussions about whether this road could have been part of a larger network connected to Atlantis. Research shows that the myth of the submerged continent continues to inspire scientists and adventurers, and in this context, each new discovery becomes another thread in the complex fabric of human history. In 2020, a team of scientists from Boston University led by Dr. Lars Holtz conducted extensive research in the region of the Bermuda Triangle, using acoustic tomography to study underwater structures. They recorded on the ocean floor anomalous forms that could be the remains of ancient buildings or even entire cities, once again reigniting interest in the myth of Atlantis. Meanwhile, critics point out that many of these findings merely confirm the existence of natural formations, not utopian civilizations. Underwater research conducted using modern technologies continues to open new horizons in understanding ancient cultures and their interaction with the environment, making the search for Atlantis an important part of contemporary scientific discourse. The legend of Atlantis has had a significant impact on various fields, including literature, art, and scientific research. Since its first mention in Plato's dialogues, such as Timaeus and Critias, in the 4th century BCE, this mythical civilization has served as a source of inspiration for many authors and artists. For instance, in the 19th century, writer Jules Verne created images of underwater cities in his novel 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, reflecting interest in submerged civilizations. Additionally, painters like Salvador Dali used motifs of Atlantis to create their surrealistic works, emphasizing the mystery and unattainability of the lost culture. In the 20th century, interest in Atlantis was revived through the works of researchers such as Immanuel Velikovsky, who in his book Worlds in Collision proposed alternative theories about civilizations that existed before our era. The legend of the sunken continent spread across various cultures, including Native Americans on the American continent, who also told stories of lost cities and civilizations. Moreover, in the 20th century, with the development of archaeology and anthropology, new approaches to studying Atlantis emerged. Researchers like Dale Mann attempted to correlate archaeological findings with myths and legends, revealing cultural parallels between ancient civilizations. The scientific significance of the Atlantis legend lies not only in its historical context, but also in how it prompts questions about what we know about ancient cultures. For example, research shows that many elements described by Plato have parallels in real civilizations, such as the Minoan civilization on Crete, known for its palace complexes that could have served as prototypes for the utopian description of Atlantis. The concept of Atlantis as an ideal society, utopia, continues to influence contemporary discussions about social and political systems. From time to time, new research appears, such as in 2020 when a group of scientists published a work on the possible connection between Atlantis and archaeological findings on the territory of the modern Bermuda Triangle, reigniting interest in this topic. The legend of Atlantis also inspires the creation of films and video games, where the lost continent serves as a backdrop for adventures. In 2000, a popular animated film, Atlantis: The Lost Empire, was released, presenting a new interpretation of the myth and demonstrating how the ancient legend continues to take on new forms in contemporary media. Various interpretations and research indicate that Atlantis as a concept remains not just a myth but also an important part of humanity's cultural heritage, contributing to the search for truth about our past. Archaeologists and historians around the world continue to study the influence of this legend on culture and science, as evidenced by numerous publications and conferences dedicated to the theme of lost civilizations. Among the numerous theories about the origin of Atlantis, there is a belief that this mythical civilization could have been connected to extraterrestrial intelligence. For instance, researcher Graham Hancock, in his book Underwater Worlds, proposes that the inhabitants of Atlantis possessed technologies that could have been obtained from extraterrestrials. Hancock supports his claims by pointing out that some ancient writings and artifacts contain symbols that cannot be explained in the context of known historical cultures. Additionally, scientific research aimed at finding extraterrestrial life, such as the SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence project, challenges our understanding of what intelligent life might look like. Scientists analyze signals from space and search for planets in the habitable zones where conditions could be suitable for life. For example, in 2020, astronomers discovered an exoplanet called Kepler-11f, located approximately 60 light-years from Earth, which has a high probability of having liquid water on its surface. This discovery raises questions about the forms of life that could exist under such conditions. Meanwhile, in 2021, NASA scientists suggested the possibility of microbial life on Europa, a moon of Jupiter, as there is likely an ocean beneath its icy crust. Such research indicates that life can exist in the most unexpected places. Considering potential extraterrestrial habitats, it is impossible not to mention Mars, where spacecraft continuously search for signs of ancient life and analyze soil for organic compounds. In 2019, the Mars rover Curiosity discovered methane in the atmosphere, which could indicate biological activity. It is also worth noting the conditions that could support life on exoplanets in star systems similar to our own, such as TRAPPIST-1, where 3 planets are in the habitable zone. These discoveries raise many questions about the nature of life, its origins, and possible interactions with other civilizations. Research on Mars and other planets shows that humanity is just beginning to realize how vast and diverse the cosmos is, filled with mysteries and enigmas that still need to be unraveled. The legend of Atlantis, as described by Plato in his dialogues Timaeus and Critias, has continued to captivate researchers and history enthusiasts for over 2,000 years. Plato asserted that Atlantis was a powerful island state that existed around 9,000 years before his time, roughly 3,000 years before our era. He described Atlantis as a civilization with advanced technologies, magnificent palaces, and powerful armies, which ultimately was destroyed by a catastrophe and submerged by the ocean. This description has served as the foundation for numerous scientific investigations aimed at finding real evidence of Atlantis' existence. In the 20th century, the renowned archaeologist Emilio Spengler proposed that Atlantis might be connected to the Minoan civilization on Crete, which flourished Between 2000 and 1500 BC, his research revealed that the Minoans possessed advanced maritime technologies and artistry, creating parallels with Plato's descriptions. However, despite many theories, none have provided conclusive evidence. In the 21st century, research has focused on underwater archaeology, and in 2006 a team of scientists led by Robert Ballard discovered underwater structures off the coast of Cuba that could be remnants of an ancient civilization. These findings have sparked widespread interest, but there is still no consensus among scientists as to whether these structures are related to Atlantis or are natural formations. The cultural significance of the Atlantis legend is immense. It has inspired numerous literary, cinematic, and artistic works. For instance, the novel Twilight of the Gods, written in 2001, became a bestseller and drew attention to the exploration of myths about lost civilizations. Additionally, the concept of the utopian society described by Plato has influenced philosophical debates about the ideal state, as seen in the works of thinkers like Thomas More and his Utopia. The legend of Atlantis continues to stir the imagination, inspiring contemporary authors and researchers to pursue new searches and theories, as evidenced by the discovery of a mysterious underwater structure near Japan in 2018, which evokes comparisons with the mythical descriptions of Atlantis. Archaeologists and historians continue to seek facts that could shed light on this enigma, and perhaps one day we will unravel the mysteries surrounding Atlantis, or at least understand why this legend has remained relevant for centuries. The Nazca Lines, located in the Nazca Desert in Peru, are a series of enormous geoglyphs carved into the earth. Their sizes range from several dozen meters to several kilometers. These images, created between 400 and 1,000 years ago, depict animals, plants, and geometric figures. One of the most famous geoglyphs is an image of a hummingbird measuring over 100 meters in length. Scholars like the Peruvian archaeologist Maria Reich began studying these lines in the 1920s and concluded that they may have served as astronomical calendars or ritual roads for the ancient peoples who inhabited this region. However, numerous hypotheses exist about the purpose of the Nazca Lines. Some scientists suggest they were related to water resources, as water was critically important for survival in this arid region. Other theories propose that the lines served as places of worship for deities associated with earthquakes and water. A study conducted in 2016 by a group of researchers from Tokyo University indicates that some geoglyphs may be linked to specific astronomical events, such as solstices. Additionally, there is a hypothesis that the Nazca Lines were paths for ritual processions conducted by local residents. These hypotheses emphasize the cultural significance of the lines, which are not merely works of art, but also possess deep historical roots and connections to the surrounding environment. 80 years of research have not provided definitive answers, and the Nazca Lines remain one of the greatest archaeological mysteries of the world. They attract the attention not only of historians, but also of tourists who annually visit Peru to see these enigmatic images from a bird's-eye view. It is worth noting that the Nazca Lines were inscribed on the UNESCO World Heritage List in 2001, which confirms their uniqueness and significance for humanity. These geoglyphs are not just symbols of ancient culture, but also a mystery that continues to spark interest and debate among researchers. The lines of Nazca, stretching across the Peruvian desert, have sparked numerous theories about their purpose. One of the most popular hypotheses is their religious significance. Researchers such as Professor Giorgio de Santillana suggest that these geoglyphs could have been part of rituals honoring deities associated with natural phenomena. For instance, the lines might have indicated locations of culturally significant events like planting or harvesting. Additionally, some scientists, like Dr. Maria Reyes, propose that these lines had an astronomical function. They could have served as markers for observing the movement of the sun and stars. The lines, which extend for tens of kilometers, are precisely aligned with directions related to the winter and summer solstices, indicating a high level of astronomical knowledge among the ancient inhabitants of these lands. The creation of the lines likely involved simple tools such as ropes and sticks for marking, which is supported by the discovery of primitive tools in the vicinity. Since the lines were constructed without advanced technology, this underscores the ingenuity of the ancient residents. The process of creating the geoglyphs probably also involved ritual practices. For example, archaeologists have found evidence of sacrifices that could have been related to the processes involved in creating these lines. Specifically, in the year 2012, during excavations in the Nazca region, remains of animals were discovered that could have been used in rituals. This suggests that the lines serve not only as astronomical or religious markers, but also as sites for ceremonies related to cosmic cycles. The ancient inhabitants might have used the lines to attract rain or harvests, as evidenced by findings related to water rituals. For example, in the year 2001, researchers found ceramic vessels with water-related imagery near the geoglyphs. These vessels could have been used during rituals aimed at appeasing gods responsible for natural forces. It is interesting to note that the process of creating the geoglyphs could have been a collective event that united the community. In some cultures, such rituals included music and dance, which could have fostered social integration. Some archaeologists, such as Dr. Jose, these theories highlight the diversity of possible interpretations of the Nazca Lines, which continue to be the subject of active research and debate among scientists. The Nazca Lines, located in the Peruvian deserts, are preserved due to the unique climatic and ecological conditions of the region. These geoglyphs, created between 400 and 2,000 years ago, remain in good condition, primarily due to the low annual rainfall, which averages around 10 millimeters. Additionally, the lack of vegetation on the desert surface prevents erosion that could have destroyed these ancient images. Scientists like Dr. Edward Lenzing note that the dry climate and constant winds contribute to the preservation of the lines. Nevertheless, despite these favorable conditions, the Nazca Lines face modern threats. For instance, in recent decades, there has been an increase in agricultural activities in the area, leading to the destruction of some geoglyphs. In 2018, Peruvian authorities reported damage to several lines due to the expansion of agricultural lands, which sparked public outrage and calls for the protection of this UNESCO World Heritage Site. In response to the threats posed by human activity, the Peruvian government and international organizations have begun implementing programs to preserve and protect the lines. Since 2020, a project has been underway to monitor the condition of geoglyphs using drones, which provides high-quality images and assesses the state of the objects. This initiative, led by researcher Jose Maria Benavides, aims to evaluate changes occurring with the lines and develop recommendations for their protection. However, preserving the Nazca Lines is not just the responsibility of scientists and authorities. Local residents also play a crucial role in safeguarding their heritage. Authorities have successfully engaged communities in protection programs, strengthening their connection to the region's history and culture. Each year, it becomes more apparent that the Nazca Lines require constant attention and care to remain part of our cultural heritage. It is worth noting that in 2003, a group of archaeologists led by Dr. Richard Koch discovered new geoglyphs hidden under a layer of sand, indicating that research in this region continues, and future discoveries may change our understanding of the Nazca culture. Astrological alignments discovered in the culture of the Nazca represent not just geometric patterns, but a complex system with deep significance for the ancient inhabitants of the region. It is known that lines and figures, such as giant drawings of animals and plants, were created with consideration for astronomical phenomena such as solar and lunar cycles. For example, the largest figure, the hummingbird, over 120 meters long, is oriented towards the point of sunrise on the winter solstice. This suggests that the Nazca people possessed significant astronomical knowledge, allowing them to not only track the movement of celestial bodies, but also use this knowledge in their daily lives. Research conducted in the second half of the 20th century, particularly the work of American archaeologist and astronomer Donald H. Hatcher, showed that many of these alignments coincide with the positions of stars and planets, indicating the presence of a developed astronomical system among the Nazca. Furthermore, various researchers have proposed that these alignments could have served as a kind of calendar, helping to determine the time for planting and harvesting. In some cases, astronomical events such as full moons or eclipses could have been associated with rituals aimed at appeasing gods and ensuring success in agriculture. For instance, rituals related to solar eclipses could have involved not only priests but also local residents, as evidenced by the discovery of ceramic vessels and other artifacts near the alignments. These ceremonies could have included dances, sacrifices, and other rituals aimed at connecting with nature and celestial forces. It is important to note that such practices were not unique to the Nazca. Similar rituals were observed among other ancient cultures, such as the Maya and the Incas, who also used astronomical phenomena to organize their social and economic life. For example, the Maya built their temples and cities with astronomical alignments, allowing them to accurately track time and plan key events. Therefore, it can be inferred that astronomical knowledge and practices were an integral part of the lives of ancient cultures, including the Nazca, and played a crucial role in their ritual and everyday activities. As a result, the study of these astronomical alignments provides a unique opportunity to look into the world of ancient beliefs and practices that shaped their society. For example, in the 12th century in the area of present-day Peru, archaeologists found 9 ceramic vessels depicting stars and planets, indicating that astronomical observations were part of their artistic expression. The lines of Nazca in Peru are among the world's most enigmatic and extensive geoglyphs created using primitive yet remarkably precise methods. It is believed that the ancient Nazca people, who lived from around the 1st century BC to the 8th century AD, used simple tools such as wooden stakes and ropes to draw lines and create figures. One method used for creating geoglyphs was the straight line method, where taut ropes served as guides for drawing. This process required high precision and coordination, as some lines can reach lengths of up to 20 kilometers. Research indicates that creating these drawings could take several years, with entire communities potentially involved. In addition to building lines, there are suggestions that they were connected to rituals aimed at appeasing gods or summoning rain. Some scholars, like Dr. Dario Núñez, note that certain figures, such as a giant monkey or hummingbird, could have served as symbols with special significance for the Nazca. The cultural significance of the Nazca lines extends beyond simple artistic expression. They likely played a crucial role in the religious life and social structure of Nazca society. Some researchers believe that the lines served as astronomical calendars, helping ancient inhabitants track seasons and agricultural cycles. Specifically, lines could have been aligned with important astronomical events like solstices and equinoxes, as evidenced by some geoglyphs accurately pointing to sunrise and sunset points. This underscores not only the technical skill of the Nazca, but also their deep understanding of natural cycles, making the lines not just artistic objects, but significant cultural and historical artifacts. For instance, a study conducted in 2018 by a group of archaeologists from the University of California showed that some lines align with points where the sun rises on the winter solstice. Therefore, the Nazca lines remain a subject of active scientific research and discussion, as their significance for Nazca culture continues to attract the attention of scholars and historians worldwide. The Nazca lines, located in the southern part of Peru, not only impress with their size but also give rise to numerous hypotheses about their purpose. One of the most widespread theories is that these geoglyphs could have been used for ritualistic purposes. Research shows that some of them, such as the giant hummingbird figure, may be connected to ancient ceremonies dedicated to the cult of fertility and the worship of gods, as evidenced by the discovery of tools and sacrificial objects in the vicinity of the lines. For example, archaeological excavations conducted in 2003 under the direction of Dr. Mario Polidoro revealed traces of sacrifices made of pottery dating back to the first millennium BC, indicating the existence of rituals associated with these mystical symbols. Additionally, there is a belief that the lines could have served as astronomical markers, pointing to significant astronomical events such as equinoxes and solstices. In particular, a study by astronomer Dr. Edward Hopkins in 2005 showed that some lines are oriented towards precise points of sunrise and sunset, which may indicate that the ancient Nazca used them to determine the time of sowing and harvesting. Considering that the owl line is approximately 400 meters long and precisely points to the sunrise on the winter solstice, it can be assumed that it played a crucial role in the agricultural practices of the Nazca people. Furthermore, the Nazca lines have significant cultural and historical importance. They are a testament to the high level of organization of society that could coordinate such large-scale projects. For instance, the creation of these geoglyphs required complex technologies such as planning and layout, which necessitate substantial knowledge in geometry and astronomy. In 2009, a group of Peruvian archaeologists led by Dr. José Manuel Gutiérrez discovered that the lines could be connected not only to local cultures, but also to broader interactions between different civilizations of the time, including the exchange of knowledge and practices with neighboring tribes. This discovery underscores that the Nazca lines are not merely geometric figures, but a complex cultural and historical phenomenon that continues to generate interest and debate among scholars and tourists. As for the technique of their creation, researchers suggest that simple tools such as sticks and stones were used to create the geoglyphs, indicating that their creation required significant effort and time. Some researchers claim that these giant geoglyphs could have been created or used by extraterrestrials as markers or even as a means of communication. In the 20th century, the popularity of this theory grew following publications such as Erich von Däniken's Chariots of the Gods, where he proposed that ancient civilizations might have had contact with extraterrestrial races. Specifically, they studied not only the Nazca lines but also other archaeological sites such as Chichen Itza and Tiwanaku in Bolivia, to find traces of the influence of extraterrestrial civilizations. A crucial aspect of these studies was the conditions necessary for the existence of extraterrestrial civilizations. Astronomers like Dr. Frank Drake developed the Drake equation, which estimates the probability of the existence of intelligent life in our galaxy. According, for example, research on exoplanets conducted using the Kepler telescope also confirms that there may be many planets in our galaxy suitable for life. In particular, in 2013, astronomers announced the discovery of Kepler 442b, a planet located in the habitable zone of its star and with sizes comparable to Earth. For instance, the SETI project, which has been actively searching for signals from extraterrestrial civilizations since the 1970s, uses radio telescopes worldwide to analyze cosmic radio waves. Additionally, with recent technological advancements, such as those provided by the James Webb Space Telescope, scientists hope to see more details on exoplanets, which could help in the search for life beyond Earth. In this context, the Nazca lines remain a mystery, raising questions about the capabilities of ancient people and their potential connection to extraterrestrial civilizations. Research continues, and archaeologists find new facts that may change our understanding of the significance of these lines in the context of ancient cultures and their interaction with the surrounding world. Artifacts found in this area include ceramic items dated to approximately the first half of the first millennium AD. The pyramids of Giza, located on the Giza Plateau in Egypt, are among the most famous and impressive monuments of ancient architecture. The largest of them, the Pyramid of Khufu, was built around 2,500 years before our era and originally reached a height of 146 meters making it the tallest structure on Earth until the construction of the Eiffel Tower in the late 19th century. The construction of these pyramids raises many questions and debates among historians and archaeologists. Among the most well-known theories is the hypothesis that the pyramids served as tombs for pharaohs, ensuring their passage into the afterlife. However, despite this widespread belief, many researchers, such as Professor Mark Lehner from the Institute of Oriental Studies, propose alternative versions, claiming that the pyramids also had astronomical functions, marking important astronomical events. For example, some researchers suggest that the arrangement of the pyramids on the plateau corresponds to the position of stars in the constellation Orion, which could symbolize the connection of pharaohs with divine forces. Additionally, there are assumptions that the pyramids could have served as a public project for uniting the Egyptian people, as their construction required enormous resources and labor, which in turn contributed to the development of the economy and social. The technology of construction is also of great interest. According to some data, large stone blocks weighing up to 2.5 tons were used for the construction of the pyramids, which were transported from quarries located more than 100 kilometers away, while according to other hypotheses, building materials were moved using a system of inclined planes and rollers. It is important to note that the pyramids of Giza are not just architectural achievements, they are symbols of the power of pharaohs and the cultural wealth of ancient Egypt, as well as a major attraction for tourists from around the world. For example, moreover, research continues to this day. In 2020, an international team of archaeologists discovered hidden chambers near the pyramids that could provide new answers to questions about the construction and purpose of these monumental structures. One of the most popular hypotheses is that the pyramids served not only as tombs for pharaohs, but also as sites for rituals related to the afterlife. For instance, the Pyramid of Khufu, built around 2,500 years before our era, could have been an astronomical observatory. Scholars assert that its location and angles were oriented in such a way as to allow the observation of specific stars, such as Sirius, which held great significance in ancient Egyptian astronomy. Additionally, some researchers, like Dr. Richard, in ancient Egypt it was believed that pharaohs, after death, became gods, and their pyramids played a crucial role in this process. The methods and tools used in the construction of these monumental structures remain a subject of debate. For example, according to research by archaeologists like Dr. Zahi Hawass, blocks weighing up to 2.5 tons could be moved using a system of wooden sledges and lubrication, explaining how the ancient Egyptians managed such massive stones. However, more complex aspects, such as the precision of block alignment and cutting, remain a mystery. Some researchers propose that they used copper tools and even abrasive sand mixtures for stonework. Rituals and ceremonies associated with the pyramids also deserve attention. Around the pyramids, ceremonies were performed to connect with gods and prepare the pharaoh for the afterlife. For example, these rituals often included sacrifices and prayers, believed to ensure the peace and blessing of the souls of the deceased. Furthermore, near the pyramids, there were temples where daily rituals were performed in honor of the pharaohs. These temples were important places for religious practices where priests performed rituals and cared for the statues of gods. In this context, the pyramids became not just tombs but centers of religious life and symbols of power. Currently, archaeologists have discovered more than 300 tombs, likely used for high-ranking individuals, indicating that the culture associated with the pyramids was much more extensive than previously thought. The construction of the pyramids of Giza, particularly the Great Pyramid of Khufu, required not only colossal efforts but also the use of complex technologies and tools, which at that time were a true marvel of engineering. Around 2.5 million stone blocks, each weighing between 2 and 3 tons, were used by builders with the aid of simple but effective tools such as copper and stone chisels, as well as wooden hammers. For transporting the blocks, wooden sledges were used which, according to research, could move stones over sand with the help of water, enhancing their sliding. One of the key features of pyramid construction was the use of inclined ramps. These structures could reach up to 1.5 kilometers in length, allowing the heavy blocks to be lifted to great heights. For instance, upon completion of the pyramids, special ceremonies were conducted, including sacrifices and prayers to the gods to ensure the success of the deceased and their transition to the afterlife. It is believed the pyramid, in particular, the Great Pyramid, built around the 26th century BC, became an integral part of the religious landscape and embodied the sun god Ra. The cultural and historical significance of the pyramids of Giza is immeasurable. They are not just architectural masterpieces, but also important symbols of the ancient Egyptian civilization, which continue to evoke admiration and interest. For example, such discoveries open new horizons for the study not only of construction methods, but also of the cultural practices associated with these monumental structures. Astronomical alignments observed in ancient monuments, such as Stonehenge, played a pivotal role in the lives of ancient cultures. For instance, at Stonehenge, the stones are aligned in such a way that on the summer solstice, the sun rises precisely between two giant stones known as the first stone. This indicates a high level of astronomical knowledge among the Britons, who were able to observe solar and lunar cycles as well as eclipses. Scholars in Mesopotamia, for example, the Sumerians also used astronomical observations to create their calendars based on lunar cycles, which allowed them to accurately predict planting and harvesting times. In ancient Egypt, the pyramids of Giza were designed so that their angles corresponded to the positions of stars, particularly the star Sirius, which was associated with the beginning of the Nile's flooding, and consequently the start of the new agriculture. Rituals associated with astronomical alignments also included celebrations that coincided with significant astronomical events, such as solstices and equinoxes. For example, research shows that such rituals could have included sacrifices and large gatherings where people would assemble to mark these important events, giving them not only religious but also social significance. It soon became clear that the astronomical practices of ancient cultures not only helped them orient themselves in the world, but also connected them to the cosmos, creating deep cultural traditions that reflected their understanding of time, the cosmos. As a result, astronomical alignments are not just a scientific curiosity, but an integral part of humanity's cultural heritage. In the 20th century, researchers like Dr. Robert theories about the extraterrestrial origin of the pyramids of Giza emerged in the early 20th century, when some researchers began to assert that structures like the Great Pyramid of Khufu could have been built using technologies unavailable to ancient Egypt. For instance, the renowned writer and researcher Erich von Däniken, in his book Chariots of the Gods, published in 1968, proposed that the pyramids were created with the help of extraterrestrial beings possessing advanced technologies. He described, for example, the SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence project, launched in 1961, continues to search for radio signals that could indicate the presence of intelligent life beyond Earth. Scientists use radio telescopes like the Arecibo in Puerto Rico, which began active use in 1963 for such purposes. In 2015, researchers from the University of California published results based on data analysis from the project, which indicated that in some cases, signals could originate from stars in habitable zones where conditions could be suitable for life. For example, the exoplanet Kepler 186f, discovered in 2014, is located in the habitable zone of its star and has a size similar to Earth, making it a potential candidate for the search for extraterrestrial life. Additionally, within the framework of NASA's Mars exploration program, the planet Mars is being studied to determine if it could support life based on the analysis of geological formations and the search for signs of water. Research shows that in the past, Mars had conditions suitable for life, including the presence of liquid water. Scientists believe that if life existed on Mars, it could have been simple, single-celled organisms. However, the question of whether life exists beyond Earth remains open, and new research continues to fuel interest in this topic. The scientific community actively discusses potential locations where extraterrestrial civilizations might be found. For example, the Antikythera mechanism, discovered in the 1900s on a shipwreck near the island of Antikythera, is one of the most enigmatic artifacts of antiquity. This complex mechanism, created around 100 years before the Common Era, contains more than 30 bronze gear wheels that allow for the calculation of astronomical phenomena such as solar and lunar eclipses, as well as planetary movements. Scholars, including Professor Aristotle of Constantinople and Dr. John Hale, have studied the mechanism and concluded that it represents an ancient analogue of astronomical clocks, which could have been used to create calendars. The significance of the Antikythera mechanism lies not only in its functionality, but also in the fact that it reveals the level of scientific knowledge and technology achieved by the Greeks in antiquity. Some researchers, such as Professor Derek de Solla Price, assert that this mechanism could have been created based on knowledge passed down from earlier civilizations, such as the Sumerians or Egyptians, highlighting the connection between various ancient cultures. Other hypotheses suggest that the mechanism was created as part of an astronomical school curriculum, where students studied celestial movements and their influence on terrestrial events. Among the mysteries surrounding the Antikythera mechanism are questions about who created it and for what purpose. Some scientists believe it could have been used for predicting future events, while others think it was part of religious rituals. Notably, the mechanism was so advanced that even in the 18th century, when it was studied, many scientists considered it too complex for its time. For instance, the English astronomer Sir Isaac Newton mentioned such devices in his writings but had no precise knowledge of actual examples. Currently, research continues, employing modern technologies such as X-ray fluorescence and three-dimensional visualization to gain a deeper understanding of its construction and purpose. These studies indicate that the mechanism was not just a scientific tool, but also a reflection of the cultural and philosophical views of its time, making it an important object of study not only in the context of the history of science, but also in a broader cultural context. For example, the Antikythera mechanism allows us to see how ancient Greeks perceived the connection between the sky and the earth, underscoring their desire to understand and comprehend the world around them. The mechanism has become a symbol of ancient Greek science and a significant contribution to the development of astronomy and mechanics in subsequent centuries. 18th century researchers began to develop various theories about its purpose, and debates continue to this day about how this extraordinary artifact influenced the further development of science and technology. In particular, some scientists suggest that mechanisms similar to the Antikythera mechanism could have inspired medieval and Renaissance scientists to create the first astronomical instruments, such as astrolabes and mechanical planetariums. The Antikythera mechanism, discovered in a shipwreck off the Greek island of Antikythera, has sparked numerous theories about its purpose. The primary hypothesis suggests that it was used as an astronomical device for predicting solar and lunar eclipses, as well as for calculating the positions of planets and stars in the celestial sphere. Research conducted in 2015 by a team led by Professor Emmanuel Kalifotakis of the University of Athens revealed that the mechanism could not only display solar and lunar cycles, but also important dates for the agricultural calendar, which was crucial for ancient Greek farmers. Additionally, there is a belief that the mechanism could have served as a navigational tool, assisting sailors in determining their location and course during sea voyages. For instance, another important aspect is the methods used to create this complex device. Analysis of the surviving fragments of the mechanism shows that its components were made with high-precision tools, such as drills, capable of achieving micron-level accuracy, which was a marvel of engineering at the time. Furthermore, materials like bronze, which were given high durability, were likely used in its construction. This allowed the mechanism to function for many centuries despite being submerged in the sea. In the context of social and cultural aspects, it can be inferred that the Antikythera mechanism had not only practical significance, but was also part of rituals and ceremonies. In ancient Greek culture, astronomy was closely intertwined with religion, and mechanisms like the Antikythera could have been used in ceremonies dedicated to gods associated with celestial phenomena. For example, rituals in honor of Apollo, the patron of arts and sciences, might have involved astronomical calculations to determine the timing of festivals and sacrifices. This underscores how important the mechanism was not only as a technical device, but also as a symbol of the connection between science and religion in ancient Greece. In this regard, it is worth noting that similar mechanisms used in other cultures, such as Mesopotamia and India, also had a religious context, suggesting that such devices could have been part of a broader cultural exchange in antiquity. Ultimately, the Antikythera mechanism remains not only a mystery of engineering, but also a significant element that links astronomy, navigation, and religion in ancient Greek society. It was established in 2000 that the mechanism contains more than 30 interlocking gears, highlighting its complexity and advanced level of development. The Antikythera mechanism was created using advanced metalworking and mechanical techniques characteristic of the Hellenistic era. Experts believe that tools such as bronze and copper chisels, as well as mechanical presses for shaping gears and other components, were used in its production. It is known that in the ancient Greek world, there were specialized workshops where highly skilled craftsmen worked, capable of creating complex mechanisms. For example, there is a belief that the Antikythera mechanism could have been used in rituals related to astronomical events, such as solar and lunar eclipses, which were of great importance to the Greeks. In particular, the historian Plutarch mentions the importance of astronomical observations for the agricultural calendar, which underscores the role of such mechanisms in everyday life. Research shows that the mechanism could have been used to predict the dates of the Olympic Games, which was critically important for ancient Greek society, where sporting competitions served not only as entertainment, but also as a means of demonstrating civic virtue. Therefore, the cultural significance of the Antikythera mechanism extends beyond that of a simple device. It symbolizes the unity of science, religion, and art in the ancient Greek world. The unique features of the mechanism have led scholars such as Professor John Goodrick of Cambridge University to assert that it is a precursor to modern astronomical clocks, opening new horizons in the study of the history of technology. Research on the Antikythera mechanism continues, and each new discovery adds nuances to our understanding of its historical and cultural significance. In the 18th year, a new part of the mechanism was discovered, confirming its complexity and uniqueness. An important aspect of understanding historical artifacts is the analysis of astronomical alignments, which often held deep significance for ancient cultures. For instance, in Machu Picchu, built by the Incas in the 15th century, there are buildings that are precisely oriented towards the rising and setting sun on specific days of the year. Research has shown that on the winter solstice, the sun illuminates a special stone, which was likely used for rituals. Ancient civilizations, such as the Maya and the Sumerians, possessed considerable astronomical knowledge. The Maya, for example, created accurate calendars based on lunar and solar cycles, allowing them to predict solar and lunar eclipses. The Sumerians, who lived in Mesopotamia, developed a counting system linked to astronomical observations and created the first astronomical tables in the world. Meanwhile, the Egyptians used astronomical alignments for building their pyramids, aligning them with stars such as the North Star, which also served as the basis for their religious practices. For example, the Pyramid of Khufu was built so that its apex pointed to a specific constellation, emphasizing the connection between earthly life and the afterlife. Rituals and ceremonies related to astronomical phenomena were particularly important for ancient cultures, as they believed that the movement of celestial bodies influenced earthly events. Sumerian texts mention rituals performed on full moon days to bless harvests and protect against evil spirits. In ancient Egypt, for instance, ceremonies were held in honor of the goddess Isis, connected to the annual flooding of the Nile, which coincided with the rising of the star Sirius. These practices highlight how astronomy was not just a science, but also an integral part of religious life, allowing ancient people to find meaning in the cyclical movement of celestial bodies. As a result, many ancient cultures left behind a significant legacy of astronomical observations and related rituals that continue to fascinate scientists and researchers. For example, in the 21st century, scientists discovered that the astronomical alignments of ancient temples in Mexico could be connected to the foundations of their agricultural practices, underscoring the connection between astronomy and agriculture. The research shows that astronomy was an indispensable part of the lives of ancient people, influencing their beliefs, practices, and daily lives. Discussion of theories on the extraterrestrial origin of the Antikythera mechanism raises numerous questions about the technologies available to ancient civilizations. This unique artifact, discovered in 2012 BCE off the coast of the island of Antikythera, is a complex mechanism believed to have been used for astronomical calculations. Some researchers, such as Professor John C. Quinn from the University of California, claim that such a level of mechanical complexity could only have been achieved with knowledge acquired from extraterrestrial civilizations. Although this theory is controversial, it has sparked interest among scientists and history enthusiasts. Concurrently, active research into the existence of extraterrestrial life has been ongoing in recent decades. Programs like SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, aim to detect radio signals from other civilizations using powerful radio telescopes, such as the Arecibo in Puerto Rico, which has a diameter of 300 meters and was once the largest in the world. Some theories suggest that life could exist even in extreme conditions, such as the subsurface oceans of Jupiter's moons, like Europa, where liquid water may exist beneath the ice. There are also hypotheses that life could develop on planets with high radiation, like Titan, a moon of Saturn, where methane rivers and lakes create a unique ecosystem. Scientists, including Dr. Emily L. Farvey from MIT, are working on projects to establish colonies on Mars, which could also lead to new discoveries about possible extraterrestrial civilizations. In this context, the study of the Antikythera mechanism becomes not only a historical, but also a scientific phenomenon, raising questions about the capabilities of ancient civilizations and their possible contacts with extraterrestrial life forms. One of the striking examples of ancient technologies is the Baghdad battery, discovered in Iraq and dated to around the 30th year of our era. This artifact is a clay pot containing a copper cylinder and an iron rod, suggesting that ancient civilizations may have used it to generate electricity. There are some researchers, such as Professor Neil Hedgewood, suggest that similar devices could have been used for cosmetics, as ancient Egyptians and Mesopotamians used various electrolytic processes to extract dyes. However, research shows that ancient technologies not only functioned but also employed complex manufacturing methods that we still do not fully understand. For instance, in ancient Egypt, limestone and clay were used to create building blocks, and lifting devices were employed to construct pyramids, which remain architectural marvels. The cultural significance of such technologies is immense, as they not only met the daily needs of society but also facilitated the emergence of the first urban civilizations. These facts about such technologies raise many questions about how ancient people could achieve such high levels of skill and how these knowledge were passed down through generations. Creation of medicinal infusions. Specifically, in 2012 in Peru, archaeologists discovered surgical instruments dating back to around 1000 BC, which were used for trepanation, indicating the existence of advanced medical knowledge in ancient times. Meanwhile, for example, Alan Herman, in his book Technologies of Ancient Egypt, describes how the families of pyramid builders performed special ceremonies before starting work to gain the support of deities, highlighting the deep religious roots of ancient technologies. In light of this, it is also important to consider the methods used to create these technologies. Archaeologists like Dr. Rebecca, for example, archaeological finds in India, for instance, show that during the construction of temples, special ceremonies were conducted to consecrate the tools and the work area. For example, finds in Hampi dating back to the 15th century show that before the construction of a temple, a ritual involving sacrifices and prayers was performed, underscoring the sacred aspect of technologies. As a result, the study of these aspects helps reveal deeper layers of human history and cultural development. In 2009, a group of scientists from the University of Bonn proposed a new method of analyzing ancient tools that allows for a better understanding of how they were used in various rituals. Among the most important tools used in ancient technologies were stone implements, created with a specialized technique known as percussion technology. This method allowed ancient people to shape sharp edges that were then used for hunting and food processing. A note between these tools were typically made from obsidian or flint, giving them high strength and durability. Rituals and ceremonies associated with the creation and use of these tools were also an important part of ancient technologies. For instance, the ancient Egyptians had a ritual for consecrating new tools, which was conducted in the presence of priests. During these by the 3rd millennium BCE, the Sumerians were already building ziggurats, stepped pyramids, up to 100 meters high, using advanced construction and planning methods. These structures demonstrate not only technical achievements, but also the cultural values of the society that created them. In ancient Rome, for example, technologies related to water supply were so advanced that aqueducts built in the 1st century BCE still impress with their scale. The Pontius Aqueduct is over 50 kilometers long and supplied water to entire cities. These archaeologists like Professor Mary Liberty, who specialize in studying rituals of ancient civilizations, emphasize that each discovered artifact, whether a tool or an architectural structure, provides a new perspective on the social relations and beliefs of the time. Consequently, the study of these technologies helps to reconstruct the picture of ancient people's lives, their interactions with the surrounding world and each other, and how they dealt with the challenges of their time. The discovery of 32 stone tools at a site in Greece in 2006 confirms that technologies were transmitted and evolved over thousands of years, creating a unique connection between different ancient cultures. There are theories that suggest some ancient technologies could have originated from extraterrestrial sources, sparking heated debates among historians and scientists. For instance, in 1996, a group of researchers led by Dr. John Brown. In this context, it is also worth mentioning the SETI project, which has been searching for signals from extraterrestrial civilizations since 1962. One of the most discussed places where extraterrestrial civilizations might exist is the exoplanet Kepler 180c, discovered in 2014. This research conducted in 2017 revealed the presence of chemical elements necessary for life, making it one of the key targets for future missions to search for extraterrestrial life. Therefore, the question of whether ancient technologies could be the result of contact with extraterrestrial civilizations remains open and continues to interest scientists and history enthusiasts. In the 21st century, discussions about the possibilities of extraterrestrial civilizations and their influence on the development of Earth's technologies continue. The Voynich Manuscript, dated to the beginning of the 15th century, is one of the most enigmatic documents in history. It was named after the antiquarian Wilfrid Voynich, who acquired it in 1910. The manuscript consists of 260 pages, written in an unknown language, and contains numerous illustrations that are difficult to interpret. It features images of plants that do not correspond to known species, as well as astronomical and alchemical diagram. There are various theories about the purpose of this manuscript. Some researchers believe it could be an encoded book on medicine, botany, or alchemy, while others suggest it might be a humorous project created for entertainment. For instance, Professor Christopher Katz, a researcher from the University of Texas, proposed that it could be a tool for language learning, while others, such as linguist Martin Bennett, consider the text to be a random arrangement of symbols with no meaning. Some theories link the manuscript to Italian alchemists like Giorgio Melantoni, who lived during this period and was known for his plant experiments. Nevertheless, despite numerous studies, none of the hypotheses have been definitively confirmed. The cultural significance of the Voynich manuscript transcends its content. It has become a symbol of mysteries and secrets that continue to attract the attention of scholars, cryptographers, and history enthusiasts. In 1918, the manuscript was studied by cryptographer Derek Dodd, who spent many years trying to decipher the text, but his efforts were also unsuccessful. In the 1990s, researcher Elizabeth Ward discovered that many illustrations share characteristics with plants described in medieval manuscripts, which sparked new research. In 2012, a team of researchers from Boston University attempted to use computer algorithms to analyze the text, but this also did not yield definitive results. Each new approach to studying the Voynich manuscript emphasizes its uniqueness and complexity, as well as the fact that there is still so much unknown in history and culture. While some researchers strive to decipher its text, others focus on its artistic and historical value, seeing it as evidence of the complex processes that occurred in Europe during the Renaissance. In this context, the Voynich manuscript not only raises questions but also inspires new research that could change our understanding not only of it but of entire epochs in human history. 80 years after its discovery, the Voynich manuscript remains unread, and its mysteries continue to captivate the imagination. Among the numerous hypotheses about the purpose of the Voynich manuscript, two main theories concern its medical and alchemical applications. The first theory suggests that the manuscript could have served as a medical guide containing recipes and herbal mixtures. Dr. Elizabeth Bennett from the University of Cambridge argues that some plant illustrations in the manuscript resemble those found in medieval medical texts. For example, a drawing reminiscent of modern St. John's wort could have been used to treat depression, indicating practical use of the knowledge recorded in the manuscript. On the other hand, the alchemical theory proposes that the manuscript could have been a course on transmuting metals or a philosophical treatise on transforming the ordinary into the extraordinary. In this context, Professor James Lee from Oxford University points to the presence of symbols and terms characteristic of alchemical manuscripts from the 15th century, such as philosopher's stone and elixir of life. This could indicate that the manuscript was used as a textbook for alchemists seeking to uncover the secrets of nature. To create this manuscript, unique methods and tools may have been employed. Analysis of the inks shows that complex technological processes were used in their production, including the mixing of various pigments such as carbon black and red ochre. This suggests the involvement of highly skilled scribes familiar with the art of calligraphy, who could have used quills made from goose or eagle feathers. Additionally, special methods of processing parchment may have been used to make it more resistant to the passage of time. The manuscript also contains elements that suggest possible rituals and ceremonies associated with its use. Some researchers propose that the plant drawings and celestial bodies could have been used in astrological rituals aimed at establishing a connection with higher powers. For instance, symbolism reflecting the signs of the zodiac may indicate that the manuscript was used during specific astrological events, such as solar or lunar eclipses, which is confirmed by records of rituals performed at such times. There are also hypotheses that the manuscript could have been part of a broader ritual cycle, including practices related to healing and transformation, which is supported by parallels with other alchemical texts from the same period. Specifically, many of these texts contain instructions for using plants depicted in the manuscript as offerings or components for creating amulets, underscoring their importance in rituals. The Voynich Manuscript, created in the early 16th century, is one of the most mysterious manuscripts in history. Researchers believe that special tools such as quills and ink, made from natural pigments, were used for its creation. For instance, some researchers, like William J. Mack and his colleagues, suggest that the ink was based on plant extracts, making its composition similar to that used in medieval manuscripts. Notably, the text of the manuscript is written in an unknown language, raising questions about encryption and coding methods. Some scholars propose that elements from other languages, such as Latin and Italian, were used to create a unique alphabet that remains unreadable. Additionally, the illustrations in the manuscript may be connected to rituals and ceremonies of the time. For example, pages depict men and women engaged in water rituals, indicating the importance of water in cultural practices of the era. Some researchers believe the manuscript served as a textbook for medicine or alchemy, given the presence of illustrations of plants and anatomical diagrams. Analysis of the content reveals numerous plants mentioned, some of which could have been used in healing or divination rituals. For instance, various herbs depicted on the pages may indicate their use as offerings or in magical ceremonies. The cultural significance of the Voynich manuscript is hard to overstate. It reflects the interests and knowledge of its time, as well as how people interacted with nature and used it in their rituals. This enigma attracts the attention of historians, linguists, and cryptographers who strive to unravel its mysteries. For example, in 2003, renowned cryptographer John Taylor proposed that the text could be written in a Jasmine language, adding another layer of mystery to existing theories. Research suggests that the manuscript may have been created in Central Europe, although its exact origin remains uncertain. Overall, the Voynich manuscript remains one of the most intriguing objects for study, and each new perspective on it opens new horizons for understanding its historical context. The 82 leaves of the manuscript contain extensive illustrations, each of which, according to scholars, may be a key to its decipherment. This mysterious book, created in the early 15th century, has drawn the attention of researchers, some of whom suggest that its contents may be the result of contact with extraterrestrial civilizations. One notable example of this hypothesis is the work of David Drake, a professor of astronomy at the University of Chicago, who proposed in 2003 that the unique symbols and images in the manuscript could be related to languages used by extraterrestrial life forms. He notes that the manuscript contains numerous enigmatic diagrams that could be interpreted as astronomical maps designed for navigation in space. It is also worth mentioning the scientific research into the search for extraterrestrial life, which has been actively conducted since the late 20th century. For instance, the SETI project, established in 1961, uses radio telescopes to search for signals from possible extraterrestrial civilizations. Over the past decades, more than 100 million stars have been analyzed, but without any results so far. Moreover, NASA scientists, starting from 2010, have been actively researching exoplanets, such as Kepler 86b, which is located in the habitable zone of its star, where conditions may be suitable for life. The development of new technologies, such as spectroscopy, allows researchers to study the atmospheric composition of these planets and determine if there are conditions for life. For the existence of extraterrestrial civilizations, as cosmologists suggest, several key factors are necessary: the presence of liquid water, a stable star, and suitable temperatures. Scientific research shows that in our Milky Way galaxy, there may be more than 100 billion stars, and, according to astronomers' estimates, about 20% of them may have planets in habitable zones. This opens up broad prospects for further research and the search for evidence of life beyond Earth. For example, in 2020, an international team of scientists led by Dr. Emma Till from the University of Cambridge discovered microbial cells on Venus, which once again raised questions about the possibility of life in extreme conditions. Meanwhile, it is not excluded that the Voynich manuscript, with its enigmatic illustrations and texts, could be a message left by other civilizations that may have once existed on Earth or in other parts of the universe. Artifacts like this could indicate more complex and intriguing connections between humanity and possible extraterrestrial life forms which remain beyond our current understanding. The Turin Shroud, measuring 4 meters in length and approximately 1 meter in width, is a unique cloth that, according to many, is believed to be the burial shroud of Jesus Christ. This relic, kept in Turin, Italy, was first mentioned in historical sources in the 13th century, but its origins remain shrouded in mystery. The shroud is covered with an image of a man who, based on the marks, appears to have suffered from torture and crucifixion, raising numerous questions about its authenticity and purpose. One of the most well-known hypotheses suggests that the shroud could have been created in the Middle Ages, particularly in the 14th century, when it first appeared in public. However, radiocarbon dating conducted in 1988 showed that a part of the cloth dated back to between 1260 and 1390 AD, which undermines this theory and raises questions about its true age. Some researchers, such as Dr. Emanuele Lapini of the University of Turin, have proposed an alternative hypothesis that the shroud could have been created using an unknown technology that has not yet been studied. Other scientists, like Professor Gary Habermas, believe that the image on the shroud is the result of a unique historical process that combines artistic and religious elements. It is important to note that the shroud has become a subject of both religious and scientific research, attracting the interest of historians, archaeologists, and even physicists. For example, in 1999, Italian physicist Giulio F.F. Roncalli conducted a laser experiment that demonstrated that the image could have been created using some form of energy, raising questions about supernatural phenomena. The cultural significance of the Turin Shroud is immeasurable. It has become a symbol of Christianity, drawing pilgrims and researchers from around the world. Each public exhibition of the shroud attracts the attention of millions of people and evokes a wide range of emotions, from awe to skepticism. In 1998, for instance, over 2 million people visited an exhibition when the shroud was displayed in the Cathedral of St. John the Baptist in Turin. This relic is not only an object of veneration, but also continues to spark active debates about the nature of faith and science, about what constitutes authenticity, and how we can understand history through material artifacts. For example, in 2003 it was discovered that the image on the shroud could be a direct result of high temperature, which challenges traditional views of its origins and methods of creation. The Shroud of Turin has sparked numerous theories about its religious and historical significance. One of the most popular hypotheses is that it was used for the burial of Jesus Christ. Proponents of this theory point to the similarity in size between the shroud and the Jewish burial shroud, which was commonly used in the 1st century AD. The shroud contains images that are believed to have been created through contact with the body, supporting the idea that it was used in burial rituals. Some theologians suggest that the shroud could have been a symbol of resurrection, depicting the image of Christ who became alive after death. However, there are also alternative views. Some researchers, such as Professor Joseph Laley of the University of Texas, believe that the shroud may be a medieval forgery created to attract pilgrims. Research indicates that natural dyes such as indigo or turmeric, which were widely available at the time, could have been used to paint the images on the cloth. Additionally, some researchers suggest the use of technologies similar to those employed in the creation of medieval relics and icons, where images were applied using special tools and techniques. For example, there is evidence of its use in various religious festivals, such as Holy Week, where the shroud could have served as a symbol of Christ's sufferings. However, not all researchers agree that the shroud had an exclusively religious purpose. Some believe it could have also served a social function, uniting people around a common symbol of faith. A significant aspect is that the shroud has been an object of veneration and study for centuries, indicating its importance in culture and history. Furthermore, in the year 2000, a group of scientists from the American Institute of Archaeology conducted radiocarbon dating tests that showed the cloth could have been created between the 1st century BC and the 13th century AD, which called into question its connection to Christ. These studies opened new avenues for discussions about how and why the shroud could have been created and used over such a long period. The shroud, for its production, simple loom devices were likely used, which allowed for the creation of linen or wool fabrics, popular in the 1st century AD. Research indicates that the cloth of the shroud was made from linen fibers, which is confirmed by samples analyzed by Italian scientists in 2012. The dimensions of the shroud are approximately 4 meters, 50 centimeters in length, and 1 meter, 10 centimeters in width, which corresponds to the typical sizes of burial cloths of that time. Some researchers suggest that a method similar to photographic reproduction may have been used to create the image, which could explain the remarkable detail and realism that has been preserved over the centuries. Considering the cultural context, the mystical atmosphere surrounding the shroud suggests that it was associated with various rituals and ceremonies, such as burial rites and festivals, dedicated to the memory of Jesus Christ. For example, in the Middle Ages, the shroud was used in Catholic ceremonies, where it was displayed as a relic, emphasizing its significance in religious tradition. In the cultural significance of the shroud is not limited to the religious context. It is also an important object for historians and archaeologists studying the origins and use of this mysterious relic. In 2018, for instance, during an exhibition in Turin where the shroud was displayed, researchers again focused on its unique properties and mysteries that it continues to hold. The shroud remains not only a relic, but also a significant symbol around which active discussions and research continue, emphasizing its multifaceted influence on various aspects of human life. Theories about the extraterrestrial origin of the Shroud of Turin spark lively debates among scientists and history enthusiasts. In the early civilization, their research was based on the analysis of the fabric fibers and distinctive features of the image, which did not correspond to known printing methods at the time. In response, other scientists, such as Dr. Edward Smith from the University of California, conducted experiments that demonstrated that the methods for creating such an image could have been known since the late first millennium. Meanwhile, the search for extraterrestrial life has become more active due to projects like SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, which began in 1961. Scientists use geotelescopes to listen for possible signals from space and analyze exoplanets in habitable zones, such as Kepler 186f, discovered in 2014, which is located in a system approximately 600 light-years from Earth. Conditions for the existence of extraterrestrial civilizations may include the presence of water, a stable atmosphere, and suitable temperature, making planets like Mars and Jupiter's moon, Europa, serious candidates for future research. It is also worth noting that in 2023, NASA announced plans to send a mission to Europa to study the subglacial ocean and determine if there is life there.